One of the major questions that educators ask is how can I introduce the prompts of depth and complexity so that they have meaning for students? What I'm going to show you is a series of stages that go from simple to complex to help initiate and then help students apply the prompts of depth and complexity. I'm only going to use one prompt as an example, understanding that you can generalize from this example. The first thing that we do is we need to introduce the prompt by giving it a very definitive meaning and definition. So in this case, the prompt is ethics. And we talk about ethics. We talk about the idea that ethics really means having a dilemma, a concern, and being confronted by an issue. And when it's not really clear, it's not really just black or white. It has shades of gray. It arouses our speculation, our deliberation of trying to figure out what's right, what's best, what's wrong, what may be negative. After we give it a definition and using, hopefully, all kinds of SEDI techniques, sheltered English, embedding the definition in the context of a sentence, giving multiple meanings in terms of synonyms, and helping kids understand its meaning. The second step is to go through the process of relating it to previous experience. Boys and girls, what stories do you remember that we have read where there was a dilemma, a problem, a concern? And some student's going to say, oh, you can't have a story without a problem or a conflict. That's right. That's an ethical issue. Should Priscilla have really taken that sweater or not? In the story of Priscilla and Fidelity. But the point being that there can be no story, Cinderella, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, without some ethical issue that has a confrontation. In science, there is ethical issues. The whole idea of looking at the oil spill that we've just encountered. Does that mean that we don't drill for oil ever again? Or the kinds of ethical issues in history about territoriality and the idea of looking at how we have taken territorial rights of sometimes areas that we really don't necessarily have rights to. Okay, the third level is the application of that particular prompt in new information. So when we talk about relating it to previous knowledge, we're talking about the things we've already learned. Like I mentioned the story in our open court reader, or for example, the science that we learned about oil and oil spills in contemporary news. It's old information. But the application to new information is saying, basically today, we're going to take what we know about ethics and use it to answer this question. What are the ethical issues that the character is confronting? What are some of the ethical issues that were part of this historical event? How can we look at an ethical issue and try to resolve it? But we're doing that with information that is new to the student, related to the core, the basic, the regular curriculum. The last step is to be able to answer the question, so what does this mean to you as you look, as you work, as you live in the real world? What kind of ethical dilemmas are we confronting in terms of current events? And notice I've said current events several times now. We need to make sure that our students don't think that the world is just the world in books, that the world is unfolding now, and that's as much history and science and story as it is if it is in a book. We can talk about where in the world, in their own smaller world, they're confronted by ethical issues. A sister who accidentally takes something that belongs to you in the family unit, or a decision that the family makes that doesn't necessarily fall in accord with what you would want as a member of that family. 4 distinctive steps, almost like a bridge, from defining what in fact that prompt is, to relating it to the student's previous knowledge and their own world of understanding, the idea of looking at applying it to new information, and the idea of applying it to the real world. In essence, it's a scaffolding. This is the idea of providing all of those means, all of those particular strategies that help students really learn what the prompt is. The goal, the major goal, is to have students take responsibility for the usability of these prompts.